So I've had a question in my Slack channel, which I thought I would respond to on video and share with my Twitter followers as well, because it's something that comes up very frequently with startup founders when I talk to them about content marketing. So people know I'm a big believer in content marketing, and that is my background. So this question comes up a lot once I start forcing people to explore content marketing. So Jack says, my biggest marketing challenge at the moment is I'm struggling with where to begin with content marketing. I've identified my persona, founders of creative agencies. I just have this block on what to create or write. I feel that whatever I come up with isn't good enough, and I don't necessarily have the authority to speak on. My ideas also revolve around my product, Courtauld, but that's not what people want to be reading about. Okay, so it's a great question. It's the reason I selected this to answer publicly is because it does come up very frequently. I have so many thoughts on this, but I'm going to try and break it down into a few structured points, just to be as useful as possible to people without being incredibly detailed or pushing myself out there too much. So the first thing I'd say is, number one, you need to hit publish, whether that's on a Twitter thread, a blog post, an infographic, a webinar. You just need to put it out there. That is the point at which you learn, and it will cultivate a culture for yourself, which is about putting yourself out there and creating. So number one, just do it. Number two is, you spoke specifically here about people not wanting to read about your product. That's right. Content marketing is not just new ways to sell your product. It is actually creating value for your persona to build authority with them. And if that means then you can gracefully sell, great. Or if it just means you get more people on your side, that's great too. So my suggestion here is, don't think of how I can sell, just think of how I can add value to the persona. On the next point, which is whatever I come up with won't be good enough. So this does relate to just getting things out there. If you can actually publish something, you will learn more through feedback, through comments, through analytics, what does and doesn't work. But there is a bit of a shortcut here. If you can identify your persona online and find a community or email them, why not ask them what type of content they're looking for? Why not review the 100 latest threads in a community and see the common themes and questions that come up and build a really comprehensive answer? So, for example, recently I worked with a client who is approaching podcast producers. So I went through some podcast groups and noticed that the number one recurring question was how to promote your podcast. So I worked with them to create a piece of content that was really focused on answering this question. So we looked for the demand before we created the content. Let's keep going. Okay, so other thing to think about in terms of what type of content is, I always say try what works for you or fits your nature. So some people aren't great writers. Now, I do believe practice makes perfect, or certainly gets you further along. And I never considered myself a writer until I just started doing it as a means to an end and found I actually enjoyed it. But what I would say to you is, I'm creating this right now as a video for you, but also I know that on video I can get a lot more information across more quickly without my perfectionist instincts being evoked, which would happen if I was doing this as text or a blog of some form. So can you try a unique content format? Another thing is, if you're not sure if you have the expertise, and this again comes up a lot. So a lot of people come to me and they say, I'm working in this space, I want to target this persona, I don't know it that well. Well, here's the tough news. If you want your business to be a success, you will need to get to know this persona. You will need to understand this person's pains and the benefits of your product for this persona better than anyone, because that's exactly what your competitors will be doing. So if you can't do that, you may as well sort of reflect on who you should be targeting again. But once you have that persona, potentially what you want to be doing is engaging with existing experts and influencers. So to give you another specific example, and the person who sent this question knows this example because he was in a group that I run with this person. But on this example, somebody reached out to some influencers in the space and just said, I'm curating a list of advice. And he reached out to 10 influencers on LinkedIn and 8 replied, giving him some content which he compiled into a white paper. So if you're not an expert, start by interviewing an expert. Start by highlighting an expert. And again, just keep going, keep publishing, keep learning, keep refining. Content marketing is not something you can do and then say, right, content marketing is done. There are some best practice tips which I've just covered. And certainly I would start by looking at the format, because people just think long form blogging and they panic. So start by looking at the format, but you will need to commit some time to this. And I personally recommend doing it yourself as the founder so that you can get closer to the persona, so that you can practice your writing skills, and so that you can share your business message authentically in that content. So those are my tips, but the number one takeaway today is just put something out there, share it, get feedback, get advice. And I commit that if anyone has been hesitating on content, if you publish something in the next few days and send it to me, I will spend 10 minutes giving you feedback. So that's my commitment to you. I've just made that one up, but I commit to doing that. If you share with me your content marketing, I will come back to you with 15 minutes free advice or 10 minutes free advice, just to suggest how to refine it, how to build audiences for it. I do have some resources on my blog for that too, in terms of building audiences for your content marketing, and I'll do some details about that on another video. So Jack, hope it helps. Everyone else watching, hope it helps as well. I've got the cap on for COVID hair. I hope you forgive me. Have a nice day, everyone. Thanks.